Hello and welcome. Today we will talk about the central bank digital currency and the three important aspects of it. So one of the aspects is the influence it would have on the private persons. The second one is the influence on the businesses, and the third one influence on the monetary policy and economics. And just to remind ourselves what the central bank digital currency or CBDC is, it would be the digital version of the cash we know today, issued by the central bank and regulated by the central bank. It is still unclear how exactly this would be issued and how exactly would be used, since only 14 countries have it live, like Nigeria, Jamaica, and a couple of Eastern Caribbean countries. In these countries, in most of the cases, the central bank, together with the commercial banks or other private providers, issues this currency, so it's backed by the central bank, but actually the people download it and are in touch with the providers to actually use it. China is on the forefront of the investigation. They introduced it live as a pilot project still in Winter Olympics 2022. And at the moment they are integrating it also with the WeChat payment system that together with the Alipay covers 90% of the digital payments in China. To note, China is extremely digitalized society with almost no cash in the bigger cities in constant use. So I have friends who live there, and they said one day when they were without a phone, it was extremely hard for them to call a taxi or make any payments because they are so used to using these digital payment systems, even without the CBDC being live there at the moment. So to come back to the private persons, what are the benefits for us? So one is this financial inclusion, and if it would be possible to have this app even without the banking account, this is something that in the countries that have lots of people without a banking account would really be very helpful. The other point that could be a benefit for the private persons is the cross-border transactions that could be much faster and easier if the CBDC would be introduced by many countries. At the moment, there are countries where it's very easy to do the cross-border transactions, but to some countries it's extremely hard and almost impossible to send money to, and this could really be very helpful. Another thing to consider is that if you're a tourist somewhere and there is this CBDC wallet, like in this Winter Olympics in China, maybe it would be easier to use it than to exchange the cash for the local currency, and then you have to do something with this cash in the end. But this is all very dependent on the way that a country implements the CBDC. The downsides for the private people, the first one could be our safety and data protection. So it really has to be done in the way that people trust it. And many people at the moment really do not trust that the governments or central banks would make this safe, and they believe that we could be then easily tracked and all of our transactions could be really watched by the country, especially if our digital identity is connected to this digital wallet. And of course, the question is this already done, even without the CBDC? And do the countries need to introduce the CBDC in order to track us? This is really, I cannot answer this question. My feeling is just that many countries already have ways to survey us if they would like to, and I believe many of them would not spend so much time into investigation and building a CBD system just for this purpose. But this is definitely a hugely important question, and we have to make sure that if the CBDCs are introduced, that they are really safe and protected. The other downside that people often think about is, would this remove cash from the use? And on the positive side, most of the countries considering CBDC say that this would be a hybrid system, so cash would still be there, and they do not plan to remove it. As already mentioned, in China, cash is really not used that much, even though the CBDC is not officially live. So there is not really a relation to the CBDC. It's just such a digitalized society at the moment that people are not using cash so much. So I would say that the CBDC would not directly remove cash. The cash could really stop being the and is not anymore the main way of payment, even without the CBDCs. The third point is, are there really benefits in the way of there are many digital solutions already present, like Twint in Switzerland, with which we can pay many things, and is it for the private customer a huge benefit to have another digital way of paying? This is also something to remain to see what the CBDC can offer us, and it's probably going to depend on the country. To move to the second aspect, and these are the businesses. For example, the small merchants, they pay quite a lot of a fee at the moment for all these digital payments and the credit cards, and for them it could be beneficial if the CBDC would charge less. So this is really, I see as a benefit for them, as well as the cross-border transactions if they would be made possible. The aspect of the economy and the monetary policy is going to be very important here, because if the CBDCs are introduced in many countries and allow the cross-border payment, this could also help countries to do transactions directly in their local currencies, and they would not have to depend on some of the other currencies like the US dollar at the moment. So I think this is really also connected to the politics and to the independence that some countries maybe want. So it could have much bigger influences than at the moment we see. This is something to remain. Another question that's important from the government side is the tracking of the financial crimes and the corruption. This could be done much easier with this digital money, because they could connect the identity to it, so they could exactly know if some of the money goes in the wrong hands. So these are just some of the aspects that can be considered about the CBDC, and it's still in investigation. There are lots of resources also to be found online if you're interested, and let's see how it develops. Thank you.